The book has been about the fall of man and also about the judgment of God. Man has fallen, judgment is past. But we have still two more books left with us. What else could be there in store for us then? Or for Adam or Eve? In fact, how would the judgment be communicated to them? What changes would come in their life? Or what life would change for them? Let's find out today in our detailed analysis of. If you look at Paradise Lost not as an epic but as a tragedy, then we have already gone past the moment of climax, of course, the fall itself, the transgression. And in tragedies, what follows right after the climax is some kind of denouement, which is like falling action. And that denouement eventually leads to some kind of resolution, some kind of restoration of order. But then, if order is completely disrupted, is chaos going to be the end for this book? No matter what, this 11th book is going to be kind of, you can say, the beginning of the fall. If I read to you the general argument that Milton gives us, the very beginning of the book, we will have some idea about what this book is going to be about. Now, what he says, if we can summarize the points, it's like in this book, Son of God, he communicates the heartfelt prayers of Adam and Eve to God, and God has to send somebody to communicate back to humans. God is very clear that they will have to leave paradise. But he does not directly go and communicate to them. Instead, he sends Michael this time. Last time it was Raphael, who we have seen had very intimate conversation with Adam, which ran across multiple books. And we are really curious to know how Adam's interaction with Michael would be in comparison to what it was with Raphael. Will it be as cozy and cordial, or will it be much more official, much more strict and serious? Now, as the book begins, we see that Adam and Eve, they are praying earnestly because they are really sorry about what they have done. And the Son of God, he offers himself like the advocate of men. And he says that their sincere prayers are sweeter than any fruit in paradise. And he wants some kind of a reconciliation. But God makes it look like it's law of nature that Adam and Eve has to leave paradise. It's like he is bound by his own rules. Because Eden is a place of innocence, if somebody is tainted by sin, they cannot stay there. It's not compatible. Now, the question might arise in your minds that if Eden was such a pristine place, what was the tree doing there which had such sinister fruits? The Bible evades questions like this, and Milton is also not directly asking any such questions. Then we have some kind of a meeting where God gathers the blessed ones in heaven and interacts with them as to know what they have to say in this matter. And this discussion, again, is in some way echo of the discussion that Satan has in hell, usually with his followers. And in both cases, we see that although the format is that of a discussion, it is generally seen, or it is always seen, that in case of hell, Satan's point of view stands, and in case of heaven, God's point of view stands. So both of them operate under some kind of a facade of democracy, a pretense of shared governance, as if the discussion or the meetings, they offer the followers some kind of a feeling that our inputs are given consideration, although we see that whatever the chief authority decides, in case of heaven it's God, in case of hell it's Satan, that stays. God makes a declaration and he addresses the gathered angels that man has gained the knowledge of good and evil now through their transgression, and that man is aware of both joy and sorrow. Now, the point is, there were two special trees in Eden and not one. One was the tree of knowledge, which created all this problem. The other tree that was there was the tree of life. Now, since Adam had already consumed from the tree of knowledge, he was pretty wise and he could make his own calculations. And in case he reaches the tree of life, then he will get immortality. So Adam has to be checked, stopped, before he makes such a decision or he manages such an achievement. So we understand that there is some kind of a hurry in God to do something about it, to stop Adam from thinking about reaching the tree of life. He commands to Michael. He does not send Raphael because he knows that Raphael already has a rapport with Adam, and he doesn't want perhaps to give Adam any kind of leverage where he can utilize the situation. So he decides upon Michael. And he entrusts Michael with the job of throwing Adam and Eve out of paradise before they cause any more trouble. What is interesting is that he also gives another instruction. He asks Michael to reveal to Adam what is going to happen in future. So you see, the fall of man is a very precarious event. Precarious as in it's confusing. We are not given any clear insight into whether it was really a choice or a matter which was predestined, always supposed to have happened. And then when Adam is leaving paradise, God already has a vision prepared about futurity. So that means whatever bad things you are seeing around you now, whatever evil you are perceiving around you now, which we prefer to look at as the choice of man, right? It is our choice and therefore it is our responsibility. If some people are being evil, we don't say that they are evil because it is something that God wants them to be, but we say that they are evil, that is their responsibility. But my point is, when Adam was shown that vision where he could see how people would behave in very bad way, evil way, then how can it be said that it was man's responsibility that he behaved in that way? Because it was already determined. It was already decided. That's why Adam saw it before he even stepped onto earth. These are the questions which we are left with, and let's see what happens when Michael eventually reaches Adam. Now, when we are turning our focus to Adam and Eve, who are still in Eden, we see that the day begins, and Milton here mentions a particular deity who is Lusothia. I hope I got the pronunciation right. So, Lusothia or Lucothia or Ino was a minor Roman sea god. So, this was a Roman deity, some kind of a minor goddess, and usually women, they invoked her on behalf of the children of their brothers. So it's like she's a very minor deity who was invoked by women, thinking about not even themselves but about the children of their brothers. So she represents some kind of a family deity, and she is also called Mater Matuta, and then that is associated with the goddess of the dawn. So why Milton mentions this deity? Because he strongly is a Puritan, and being a Puritan, he should discard all these ideas about Greek and Roman gods and goddesses. But we have seen him repeatedly referring to these kinds of figures in his book, which makes us understand that this was the Renaissance influence on him. Because Renaissance was also a time when the interest in classical literature, classical mythologies, all these things were revived. So the day begins, and Leucothea, who is the goddess of the dawn, she awakens and brings light and fresh dew to the earth. Adam and Eve, they have completed their prayers, and somehow they are feeling like they are strong, a little bit recovered from their shock, and somehow they have fear, but at the same time, some kind of optimism begins to stir in their hearts. And that is what humans are actually made of. Humans are made of this ability to hope despite the circumstances, which sometimes are really horrible. So Eve begins to reflect upon what's happening now, and Adam reassures Eve and says that, see, we are praying, and I'm sure by our prayers some good will happen. So he still has a very childish faith in God's benevolence, and he believes that maybe there's a way out of this. Eve is really inconsolable. She is very, very sad, and she is very humble also. And when Adam is referring to Eve as the mother of mankind, she is saying that I don't deserve that title. I don't deserve to be called a mother because I am a destroyer. And I'll read to you the lines she's saying here. Ill worthy I such title should belong. Ill worthy. I don't have the right to be called the mother. To me, transgressor, who for thee ordained a help, became thy snare. So I trapped you. I became like a snare to you. To me, reproach rather belongs. It is better that you reproach me, you rebuke me, you scold me, because I deserve that. You shouldn't be nice to me. Distrust and all dispraise, but infinite in pardon was my judge, that I, who first brought death on all, am graced the source of life. So, this is what sounds really interesting. She's saying that this is a paradox of her life, that she has brought death into the world, but she is considered to be the source of life also, because she is going to give birth to future generation. So what has she actually brought, death or birth? And then we have a call to labor. So despite their fallen state, Eve, she urges Adam to embrace their new life, that whatever we are left with, I think we should go on, move on. And she emphasizes on the beauty of their surroundings, because they do not know that what fall actually looks like. So do they have to live here just until they die? So Eve concentrates on the beauty of the surroundings, and she wants to go on working. But Adam notices that there are already some signs, some indications that a change has started to take place. The animals are behaving in a different way. The morning sky is suddenly dark, and there is a bit of darkness everywhere. And so he gets very concerned that something is about to happen. And while he is expressing his concern, we see that heavenly hosts, like heavenly beings, angelic beings, they descend from heaven, and there is a sense of apprehension in Adam. He tells Eve that we are expecting news, and important news. And what happens when he wants to have important conversation with some divine beings? Eve has to leave, because somehow we have never seen her comfortably facing any angelic being. It's always through Adam that she receives her instructions and whatever message God wants to send her. So, what does Adam actually tell Eve? He sees that there is a heavenly being, but it is not Raphael. He was expecting that maybe Raphael would come, and he had started to feel very comfortable with Raphael, but now he sees that no, it's not Raphael who has come. And he says, yet not terrible that I should fear, nor sociably mild as Raphael. So he would have felt comfortable because Raphael was socially mild. But this time he sees that it's a different angel, but he still wants to convince himself that I should not be afraid, I should not be overconfident, but solemn and sublime, whom not to offend, with reverence I must meet, and thou retire. So he wants Eve to retire, to go away from that place, because he doesn't think her presence is required. He ended, and the archangel soon drew nigh. So, archangel is an important angel, not in his shape celestial, but as man clad to meet man. Now, when Michael appeared in front of Adam, he transformed himself into the shape of man so that Adam could face him like a human being. Michael's presence is majestic because he is an angel. But why this transformation is necessary? Because it was important for him to establish some kind of a communication with Adam, which was possible only if he looked a lot like Adam. Michael informs Adam that his prayers have been heard, and although he is not yet dead, there is a delay in the sentence of death. He must leave paradise immediately, and he should return to the ground from where he was created. Adam is obviously sorry about this, sad about this, and Eve, who is hidden but still listening to everything, she also begins to panic and show a lot of distress. She laments that I have to leave this place, and in her lamentation, Milton puts in such beautiful elements where we can see how attached she was to the place on an emotional level. So she is not sorry only because this was a great place where you could enjoy yourself. She was sorry because she was emotionally attached to the gardens. She had named the plants, and there was already elements of motherhood in her. The way she feels that she has protected these plants and they have been under her care. So, Eve the nurturer, Eve the caregiver, was born long before Eve had given birth to any human being. And it's like she is behaving as a woman who has to leave her native place to go out into a strange world. And the sense of fear on one hand for the unknown and the grief for losing the known. Those two things are working with her. The angel reassures Eve, urging her not to mourn excessively. She's not alone in her departure, and he says that you have your husband with you. And what does he actually say? Lament not, Eve, but patiently resign what justly thou hast lost. So you have lost it, now you have to accept the punishment patiently. Nor set thy heart thus over fond on that which is not thine. So the idea of possession is questioned here, and Eve is instructed not to hold on to things, latch on to things which are not her. So here we have this advice from the angel to practice detachment, because you do get attached to worldly possessions, worldly things, and then eventually have to leave everything. And during those moments of leaving everything that we have loved so much, these words become very important, that these things were never ours in the first place. So it's like a philosophy that we see here explained, the philosophy of detachment, and at the same time a philosophy of attachment to Adam. So here Michael is not saying that don't feel attached to Adam. He is saying that you don't feel attached to materials, objects. You feel attached to your husband, and wherever he goes, it's your home. As if he is laying down the destiny of generation and generation of women who are going to come after Eve. Thy going is not lonely, with thee goes thy husband, him to follow thou art bound. The idea of being bound to him, restrictive, a word which is evocative of some kind of slavery, bound. Where he abides, where he stays, think there thy native soil. So his decision as to where he is going to set up his house is going to be transferred to you. You don't have a say in this. All right. Adam, appearing still humble, he regains his composure and addresses Michael and acknowledges the gravity of the message, that it's a very serious thing that you're saying. And he expresses his sorrow that it's a very heartbreaking thing that we have to leave this place. And from the very beginning, we have seen Adam is very particular about this thing, that he is going to miss his communication with God. It's like he feels that it's going to be like an exile. So, more than the physical discomfort of leaving Eden, he is bothered about the spiritual exile that he is going to experience. Michael assures him that you don't have to worry. God is present everywhere. No matter where you are sent, you will be able to communicate with God. How? Through divine signs. Not SCIENCE, but SIGNS. Signs means God will show himself through certain events in your life, through certain beautiful scenes in the world. So, God will be obvious to you, God will be evident to you, God will manifest himself through various means, no matter where you go. And then he gives him kind of a grand show of the future world where Adam can see what he's actually getting into. So they go up on a hill. Eve is not taken along. It's very obvious. They are not considering Eve as an independent entity, and it's as if it is sufficient for her to receive every information through Adam. So she is resting down while Adam is taken away by Michael to ascend a hill, and as he ascends the hill, he gains a clear view of the entire earth. All right. And then he kind of sees the vision of what is going to come to this entire world. He sees the vastness of human civilization from ancient empires, distant lands, and everything is, it's like a grand display of distress. There is a film in his eyes, and Michael removes the film from Adam's eyes, enhancing his sight. And with his new clarity, Adam is prepared to view the broader realities of life, and he can't take in so much, and he collapses, he faints. The gentle angel, he lifts Adam up to keep him from despair. And this kind of is a very moving scene where we understand that maybe Michael is a stricter angel, but he still has a lot of compassion for Adam. Adam opens his eyes to witness the consequences of original sin. Now that they have committed a crime, what's going to really happen to everybody? So first he sees a field. It's a very interesting vision that he has. He sees a field divided between crops and sheep. So on one field there are lots of crops, and on the other field there are some sheep. And there's this altar where a sacrifice is going to be taking place. Now first he sees that a reaper, who is a farmer, offers the first fruits, the best products of the field to the altar that is established there. And then from that field where he sees the sheep gathered, he sees that there is a shepherd who comes and offers his sheep to the altar. Now, the sacrifice of the shepherd who offers his sheep, that is rejected by the altar. Why? Because, well, he had not been very sincere. He had not chosen the best of the lot. He had not the kind of submission that was there in the farmer or the reaper. So what happens? He gets very angry and he gets violent and he kills the other person in a fit of rage. Adam is horrified by this act of violence. First of all, he has never seen death. He was seeing death for the first time, and this is a very horrible way to die. So his first exposure to death was through this vision of violence. Obviously, he is expressing his shock and grief. And he says that, why is this righteous person killed? I mean, I can see that it is death, but I can also see that the person who was murdered was a good person, and the person who murders was the unjust person. He had not been as submissive to God as the person who is murdered. So, how is this all happening? And then Michael explains that these two men are brothers, and not just that, these two men would be born out of you. That means you are their father. So imagine, he is showing Adam the vision of what is going to happen to his two sons, that one of them would kill the other. If you are familiar with the story of the Bible, you already know that this story is about the story of Cain and Abel. So Abel was the one who was murdered, so he was the first victim of this world, and Cain was the first murderer. And what punishment was meted out to him? Cain was not punished with death, but he was turned into a fugitive, that he would not be able to be in society, he would always have to hide, and that kind of a punishment, the punishment of exile. So Adam was shown all this. So instead of providing him with some kind of a comfort, he's actually given more horror to deal with. Why is God doing this? Because somehow I think God also knows that if Adam was simply asked to leave paradise along with Eve and lead a life where they eventually die, he wouldn't actually understand the real consequence of his actions. So, in order to make his life filled with more regret, God had to show this through Michael. Michael assures that maybe what you are seeing now is appearing unfair to you, that this good person is murdered. But let me assure you that this bloodshed will be avenged, and the faith of this murdered man will be rewarded, despite the tragedy of the whole situation. And he says, but the bloody fact will be avenged, and the other's faith approved, lose no reward. Though here thou see him die, rolling in dust and gore. But still Adam is in despair. He is overcome by the sight of death, and he says that does death look this terrible? That means, isn't there any easier way to die? And Michael says that you have seen death in its most direct form, most aggressive form. But there are other ways to die too. And he says that there are other ways. There are violent ways to die. There are gradual ways to die. So now he'll be given kind of a show of different ways in which people would suffer, face death. And he warns of various diseases and afflictions, the kind of sickness that would engulf humanity, the plague that they would face as a result of Eve's disobedience. And the vision of suffering this time, it was like a hospital was shown to him, and it was filled with the sick and the suffering, affected by countless diseases. And the sight is so horrific that it compels Adam to tears. He begins to cry, and he already feels sad. And why is it? It's simply because whoever he sees in that vision is born out of him. So it's not like the way we watch visions of suffering. We always watch visions of suffering all around us, the plight of people who are suffering through floods. Right now, when I'm recording this, there are news reports flashing all across the channels, all the channels, where we see these houses where people do not have any place to even stand. But it is a terrible thing. The way we are getting, it's like desensitized. Are we really affected? And we afford this. We can afford this distance because we try to subconsciously have this protective understanding that this is not linked to us. But Adam cannot do that. He is very aware that these are going to be children of his children, somehow connected directly to him. And that connection with the entire humanity, this makes him the father of humanity. Okay. You don't become a father simply because of a biological connection with your children, but because of the emotional connection. So these visions are helping Adam become the father of mankind. And he is wondering why existence should come with such pain and misery. And he says, "O miserable mankind, To what fall degraded, to what wretched state reserved? Better end here unborn. He also is now thinking along the same lines that I don't think we should give birth to human beings. Why is life given to be thus wrested from us? Rather, why obtruded on us thus? What is the point of life if we are just going to lose it like this in this horrible manner? Who, if we knew what we receive, would either not accept life offered or soon beg to lay it down? So the point is, those who are born, like you, me, were we asked whether we would be born? No. So we're kind of given this situation and we have to deal with it. So he says that, is it even fair? Can thus the image of God in man created one so goodly and erect, though faulty? Yes, he admits that he had been faulty, but still he has the image of God in him. To such unsightly sufferings be debased under inhuman pains? Michael says that it is human being's choice. And he says that these diseases wouldn't have been caused if human beings would have led a life of moderation. And he says that by succumbing to base desires, turning away from God, they have forsaken God's image. And then here Milton comes back to the idea which we had got right in the first book itself, the idea of false gods, the idea of brutish images. Okay, so that becomes for Michael the main point that he can assert, that this is why human beings are suffering. So he says that man has distorted his own image and he has distorted God's image. So it's not because of God but because of man's choices that he has alienated himself from God. Adam accepts this and he still has this horror in him, and he says that, is there a possibility that there's a different way to die? And Michael says, of course there is. And he says, you have to live a life of moderation, temperance, suggesting that a balanced life can lead to a natural, peaceful death. And he says that, see, your body will grow old, but if you fight it, you resist it, then it won't be a good thing for you. If you accept it, if you accept the way nature is, then you will be granted a smooth transition into, well, lifelessness. He says that aging will bring the loss of youth and vitality, and Adam must accept it. Adam is already prepared that, okay, I'll grow old, I will lose my youth, that is okay with me. And my focus from now on will not to seek death, but to live the life I am granted and live it well. And then he is given this final word of advice, nor love thy life nor hate. So here we are having this very Buddhist kind of a philosophy given, the philosophy of detachment, as we have already seen earlier in this book. Nor love thy life nor hate, but what thou livest live well, how long or short permit to heaven. So leave it up to heaven to decide when you're going to die. Don't think about it. And now prepare thee for another sight. Another sight is offered. So he's given a series of visions, prophetic visions, and in this vision, he will be offered some kind of a consolation. Okay, what does he see? He sees first the tents of men, and people are enjoying there, playing music and all. So Adam sees that people are having fun. They're having a joyful gathering, dancing, singing, and he thinks that, okay, they are having a nice time. But Michael warns him and says that in spite of the beauty of the scene, the reality of the scene is something else. He says that do not judge them by appearances. The joyous tents belongs to those who are corrupt and they engage in wicked activities. They pursued empty happiness and enjoyment, and they build their lives on superficial pleasures. That means they are pursuing the life of sin. And in a way, Michael says that they are going to be responsible for further downfall of man because they will attract other people, other humans who will start behaving like them. So it's like they are going to have this attack on humanity like virus. Adam continues to feel sorry about the whole thing, and somehow he mentions that the cycle of human suffering begins with women and the weakness in men. And then he is shown a vision of war and conflict. So number of visions are being shown. So this time he is looking at a battlefield, violence, suffering, men engaging in brutal warfare, oppression, and he can also see that there is a just man, one who is righteous, but he is not able to establish himself because it's such a violent battlefield. He is almost lost to the crowd's aggression and overwhelmed by all this brutality. Adam continues to moan that what's going to happen to the world? What's going to be the point of our leaving paradise, even? And then he says, "Oh, visions ill foreseen." So he has seen before the events have happened. So it is visions ill foreseen. Better had I lived ignorant of future. If I was not shown all these flashes of futurity, I would have been quite happy. God never wanted him to be happy. He wanted to punish Adam. That's why he showed him all that. So I had borne my part of evil only. Each day's lot enough to bear. I had my punishment to bear. Why is this added load of terror, of concern dumped upon me? Is it not enough that I will suffer my own suffering? Those now that were dispensed the burden of many ages. Now, all these moments of destruction that are shown to me in one flash, they are going to happen over ages. But I am burdened with their vision all at once. On me light at once by my foreknowledge gaining birth abortive to torment me or their being. So now I am feeling sad for something which has not yet happened. Why is this even required? With thought that they must be. So I'm just thinking that they will happen and I'm feeling sad. So why this added burden of sadness is imposed on me? Let no man seek henceforth to be foretold what shall befall him or his children. Sometimes we really, when we hear that somebody can see the future, there are these friends in our friend circle, there are people around us who claim that they can tell us what's going to happen to us looking at our palms, foreheads, and tea leaf reading and all. We get curious. Even when we are scientifically bent, we are somehow non-believers of those things. Even then we get curious and we want to ask them, what will happen to me? Tell me. For them, Adam is saying that do not try to know your future. Because see, ultimately what is future? Only thing that you are sure about your future is that you are going to die, your children are going to die, their children are going to die. You are not sure of anything else. So if you are actually given a glimpse into the futurity, you will have to face the fact that you will see your death, you will see your child's death, you will see your grandchild's death. So it will never be a happy thing. Uncertainty about future is what makes us survive, trust me. And this is what Adam is saying. All would have then gone well. Peace would have crowned with length of happy days the race of man. But I was far deceived. So I thought that there would be peace. What will happen? We will fall. Then men will be born. And then they will establish a race. Because he saw that all around him, the animals, they were fine. So how could human beings be different from that? But then he says, for now I see, that he's saying that he's deceived. For now I see peace to corrupt no less than war to waste. War is a wasteful thing. War destroys. But peace is the time of corruption. And when is Milton writing this? Milton is writing this after the Restoration. After the restoration of monarchy, after the destabilization of the Puritan regime, of which he was an important part. So he looked at the Puritan Revolution as a glorious thing. But when he was writing Paradise Lost, by that time, there were certain ideas already destabilized. He was disillusioned because he saw that after the removal of Charles, when Cromwell was there up in the throne, he was not the king, but he was the Lord Protector. Milton must have had certain expectations from that Puritan government. And the most important expectation would have been the continuity of democracy. At least, if that word was not in use, the idea of being governed by the will of the people. So, when Cromwell's death brought in a kind of a continuation of Cromwell's line, because his son was now the Lord Protector, and no fair election process was undertaken to ensure that the Lord Protector would be elected. It was kind of a given thing that Cromwell's son will become the Lord Protector after him. That is disillusioned a lot of people, including Milton, and the way he saw the failure of the Puritan government to establish righteousness, and he saw how corruption was eating away. Earlier with Charles, it was only the king was corrupt. Now everybody was corrupt. So all these ideas are probably reflected in Adam's words when he says, peace is corruptive, peace to corrupt no less than war to waste. So Michael explains the origin of wickedness, and he says that this everything is a result of an ill-matched marriage between good and evil. Those lead to monstrous beings like the giants. In this new era, might and valor will be praised, with conquest through bloodshed considered the pinnacle of human glory. Now, this is what is about the Greek epics, where we see that characters like the Titans and the Herculean characters, rather Hercules himself, all these characters are turned into heroic figures, even Beowulf for that matter, heroic figure because of their physical valor. So Michael says that this world is going to be governed by the ideas of brute force being heroic. And sadly, that is heroic even now. If you look at the Bollywood movies, the one who can fight the best is the hero of the movie. All right, go further down south, and it's the same thing. There is an emergence of alternative ideas and different kinds of movies and series nowadays, but still, the majority of the movies that we see establishes the fact that if you are good with your fist, you deserve the girl. That is the general idea. So, this is what Michael is telling Adam: the just man and God's judgment. So, now he directly comes to the idea of judgment and says that there will be a person, a just man, and he refers to Noah. So, we have a specific incident that is shown to Adam in a vision, in the final vision. And you know the story of Noah and the flood and the animals he took with him on the ark. I had already told you this story in, I think, when I had introduced book 1 of Paradise Lost. So you already know the story. So he is shown the vision of the great flood. Adam sees this vision and he sees the transformation of the world after Noah builds an ark to escape the flood. He expresses sorrow that his descendants will be destroyed in the flood. But he also feels that there is hope because there is going to be this person, this just man, Noah. The flood, according to Michael, it will be like a cleansing force. And out of whatever remains of humanity, new life will emerge. It is here that Milton at length discusses or writes about the story of Noah, and he writes how as the flood waters recede, Noah sends out a raven, then a dove, which returns with an olive leaf. So it signals the end of the flood and a promise of peace. Noah and his family, they come out of the ark, the big boat, and they offered thanks to God. And then Michael, who is narrating everything also, is like a commentator, passing a commentary on the vision that Adam is seeing. He reveals the rainbow in the sky is like symbol of God's connection with humanity. Connection as in covenant. You will have to remember this word, covenant. Covenant is connection, a touch with humanity, and God is establishing it through the rainbow. It's like a promise that I'm not going to destroy the earth with flood again, and it is like an assurance of God's mercy. Adam finds solace in the vision of Noah and promise of renewal, and he says, far less I now lament for one whole world of wicked sons destroyed. So I was weeping because I was seeing that my children will be destroyed. But I now know that they were wicked, they are bad. So I do not regret that. What I am happy about is that there will be Noah. Noah is also his descendant. Then I rejoice for one man found so perfect and so just that God vouchsafes to raise another world from him and all his anger to forget. And it's kind of God's assurance through Michael that we get that God will maintain the order of nature with seasons and cycles continuing until the doomsday when the world will be purified and all. And in this renewed creation, the just people who are good people, they will find their place and God's mercy will prevail. So we see Adam not just facing his own personal fall, but also the fall of an entire race of human beings, generations of humans who would be coming from him. So this makes him understand the real significance of his action. And in a way, this is like he understands that every action sets a chain of reactions. In our lives, also, whatever deeds we undertake, good or bad, at that moment we might feel that its consequence is not that big, but it is only futurity which can show us that even that one single act has led to an eruption. So we have to be very careful of what we do and what we not do, because what you do will have its consequence, what you don't do will also have its consequence. So what we also notice is that the tone of the poem has really mellowed down, become gloomy. Earlier we had much energy because we were shown the temperament of Satan and the clash between the angels and all that. And now we are given this vision after vision of gloom. Will it tone down even further? Will Adam and Eve be left only in despair? Or will the last book bring us some kind of content, some hope of renewal? How will the actual exit look like? Will they be thrown out or will they pass out like in a voluntary way with acceptance? We will see that in our next and the final video of this series. I promise you it will be uploaded very soon after this one. So stay in touch, subscribe now, and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified every time a new video comes up. So, till we meet again, this is Monami Mukherjee signing off. Bye bye.